So welcome, everyone. Welcome. Such a pleasure to have you all today, and so glad that you all were able to make it out. I'm excited to share with you this evening. We have some incredible guests with us, some carefully selected participants for tonight's webinar who they're going to be sharing some great information with you just about their current experiences so far. So we'll dive in and get started. My name is Kristen, and again, so today's webinar is about getting the graduate student experience of the online business program. So that's what we'll be kind of diving into specifically today. Now, again, my name is Kristen. One of the things that we're also going to be covering specifically is just some general questions about what each person's experience has been like thus far. And then we'll be doing some programmatic information and talking about both programs overall. So again, today I'm happy to have joining me some incredible guests. First, we have Taylor, who we should congratulate, who actually just finished the MBA program this summer. Congratulations. Taylor is a recent graduate of the online MBA program. She lives in North Bend, Washington, serves the senior volunteer coordinator at Providence Hospice of Seattle, supporting the pediatric hospice and palliative care program, as well as the Camp Erin Grief Camp program. Is there anything additional that you'd like to share about your background, Taylor?
Thanks, Kristen. Just really excited that other folks are interested in this program. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity and just would do it 100% over again. So excited just that folks are joining tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Next, we have Jessica, who graduated from California State University, Long Beach, with a bachelor's in sociology, music minor, and has helped house homeless families and individuals struggling with mental health for 4 years. While she was in school, she moved to Seattle, Washington to work for Costco, and she's been with the company for 13 years. Now, Jessica is a current student in the MBA program, and she's looking to expand her experience as a leader and to ultimately lead her company to success. So her dream in combining her passions for community, business education will ultimately help her to continue to make a difference. Welcome, Jessica. Anything else you'd like to share about your background?
Thank you, Kristen. No, that is all. I am excited to be here and assist in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you. Next, we have Jonathan Jean-Pierre, who is an accomplished senior program manager within the tech industry. Jonathan has over 11 years of extensive experience in the technology sector, has developed a robust skill set that encompasses product sales, operations, technical programming, project management. A lot of his experience includes working in HQ settings at T-Mobile, to Special Interest Group, and Bank of America. Jonathan has also demonstrated profound commitment to driving innovation and operational excellence. He's even gone on to start his own technical consulting firm, Jean-Pierre Consulting LLC, and is continually seeking opportunity to expand his knowledge and skills. Welcome, Jonathan. Anything additional you'd like to share about your background?
No, not at the moment. I'll take questions at the end.
Okay, awesome. Well, last but certainly not least, we have Melinda joining us, who is currently a scientist in the biotech and pharmaceutical industry, who is currently a student in our master's in business analytics at Seattle's Albert School of Business. Melinda is expected to graduate soon with more than half of the program completed. She's excited about transitioning from research to a role in product management and planning. Her passions lie at the intersection of data and strategy, where she leverages insights to drive decisions and bring new medicines to patients. Melinda, anything else that you'd like to share about your background at this time?
No, just that I'm really excited to be here today and assist in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm so incredibly excited to have all of you here. Again, a kind welcome to our esteemed guest. So we'll dive in a little bit about the agenda today. So what are we going to discuss? So initially, there will be an opportunity to kind of hear some questions answered by the guests that we have here today. But we'll talk a little bit about Seattle University specifically for those of you who are either incoming students, if you're on the cusp of deciding if this is a good fit for you. We'll briefly talk about a few things relative to the program, why go online with Albers. Then there'll be a segment with the live Q&A. We'll talk a little bit about the online student experience, kind of wrap with a few admissions requirements, deadlines, and then any lingering questions that you have for our guests. So to kind of get us started, for those of you who don't know much about Seattle U, Seattle U was initially founded in the 1800s, so 1891 specifically, and is currently the largest private university in the Northwest region. Now with over 81,000 alumni in 42 states, 88 nations, and a Jesuit Catholic inspiration, Seattle University continues to be dedicated to educating the whole person. So, and additionally, empowering leaders for a just and humane world, and it's dedicated to being a premier university in academic quality, Jesuit inspiration, and service to society. In addition to this, Seattle University students who aspire to embody this mission and vision are doing so in a fashion that can be said to be a form of economic altruism, and are approaching a regional economic impact of $525 million, which is incredible. Now, we are also proud to share that recently Albers was ranked in the top 50s for best online business degree offerings, with the online MBA coming in at number 49 and the online MSBA ranking at number 18. So we're very excited about those rankings. A lot of hard work that goes into creating and meeting the expectations for these particular organizations that vet the business programs. Now, why go with Albers or Seattle University in addition to the rankings, right? So it is a respected AACSB graduate business degree program. So AACSB essentially is the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business, where only 5% of schools in the US carry this accreditation. Seattle University has maintained theirs for over 50 years. So you'll be able to function within the program by also being able to maintain your full-time job, complete your coursework anytime, anywhere with the convenience of online learning, being able to take advantage of a multitude of online and in-person networking opportunities. So if you are newer to the area, or if you are just looking to connect with other individuals and wondering how that will be possible within the virtual environment, you are still able to take part in a number of different opportunities that Seattle University offers as a virtual student. So you'll be able to also work towards maintaining close ties to the vibrant and innovative business communities with alumni networks that companies such as Amazon, Nike, Microsoft, Boeing, Netflix, Zillow. We heard T-Mobile here tonight, which is another heavy hitter, in addition to a number of other organizations. Well, while developing values-centric business practices, being able to study, discuss, network, and track your grades through an innovative online learning management system. So some exciting things. If you are interested in getting started, we'll shift gears now and we'll kind of start posing questions to our guest. Now, there is no specific order that we have to have. You know, this is kind of a casual, you know, more of a laid back type of question. So whoever wants to answer, feel free to chime in. But we'll go ahead and kind of get started with the initial question, right? The one that's on probably everyone's minds. Why you all choose Seattle U for your graduate study?
Well, I'm happy to start. So when I was trying to decide on a program, I was actually about 7 months pregnant. And so I knew that basically when I started a program, I was going to be having like a new child, a new baby. And so the sort of flexibility of an online program was extremely important to me for obvious reasons. You know, and from there, I was kind of narrowing down to a variety of universities throughout the country. And I'm in the middle of a sort of a career change. I'm currently a scientist, but looking to sort of move towards a more, you know, business focused role. But my thought was I might want to be doing this career change, but actually I'm not interested in a location change. So I am actually in Seattle. I live less than a mile away from campus, but I needed sort of the flexibility of the online program. But at the same time, I wanted sort of the benefit of the connection to the greater Seattle area. And like Kristen was talking about, to all the companies that are local. And so Seattle U sort of fit those two intersection, you know, sort of perfectly. And it really has sort of like fit that role for me. It's given me a lot of flexibility. I don't have any sort of committed class times, which is perfect for having a small child. And at the same time, I've met, just even through a lot of the different events where alumni come, I've met so many people that are local to Seattle and who have went to Seattle U themselves. So it's really kind of like met those two sort of needs that I had for me. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I still remember what the virtual retreat, and I was so excited that you were there and you had your little one with you. Well, we got a chance to see they chance to see your little one there, which was I thought was so incredible, and so awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments, especially in those first couple of quarters, where it turns out you can actually carry a newborn or take care of a newborn and watch lectures at the same time. So in case you're wondering if you can do those two, those are two things that you can do at the same time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Melinda. Anyone else care to share why you ultimately chose Seattle U for your graduate studies? Or what were some deciding factors that helped you choose?
I can go next.
Oh, I saw. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jessica. Jonathan, I think you were speaking, but you were muted.
Oh, I'm
But Jessica,
sorry.
go. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, I decided to choose Seattle U for their online program and their flexibility. They also were one of the most affordable from all the other programs that I was checking out. I also live here in Seattle, and so even though it's online, I wanted something that was still close where I can meet with students and still be involved in the school with extracurricular activities. And Seattle U was that for me. The process was a little scary because it was my first time ever applying, but Kristen was really helpful, and I mean, I know I made the right choice.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. That's awesome. Well, again, it's always great to see you know, the you all accomplish and working towards your goals and seeing the efforts and things that you put in. So you know, definitely happy to support you. Jonathan, I'm sorry, you were saying, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I have a similar approach to the program. I had just started in my new role at T-Mobile as a senior program manager, so my workload was actually pretty extensive. So I definitely wanted to take this route and find a program that would not only give me the ability to still thrive um, on my career, but as well as give me the opportunity to work around the hours and get that done as well. So I think Seattle U gave me that. I did my undergrad at UW, so I wasn't really too. I didn't really care to go back to UW. Like I feel like I did it already. So, and coming out of high school, Seattle U and UW were my top two schools. So being that I already achieved one, I was like, you know what, let me take this time and go to Seattle U. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for sharing. Taylor, did you want to add something or as well?
I would just say I think it's really important to highlight the service nature of Seattle U. For me, when I looked at different grad programs, it was a huge selling point to just know that every class was focused on service. So each course has its lead assignment component, and you are empathizing with those that you are supporting, whether it's, you know, your team in a business, your customer, your stakeholders from your suppliers, to even your competitors, how you can empathize with them. So for me, that was a huge part of being able to know that in a world where we can see business from a competition of, you know, being a negative, it looks at it from a whole different lens. And for me, that was a selling point right from the get-go.
Wonderful. So I think it's great too to hear that, you know, having those components in every course, it kind of helps to build that muscle memory. So now when you're having these exchanges, you kind of, you know, automatically switch to that mode when you're looking to address any issues or solve problems or generate solutions. So that's excellent. That's awesome. All right. So this is an interesting question, and this is one I actually get, you know, even at the admissions level, right? You know, so what has your experience been like with the professors? Do you feel like you have access to professors when you have questions? How involved have they been in your experiences so far?
Yeah, I could take this one. I feel like the professors have been extremely helpful, and very accommodating. Just recently, I went through some personal family traumas, and kind of needed some time to, navigate around the schoolwork and whatnot. And they're very more than willing to be accommodating. And not only that, it's very supportive. So it was more so like, hey, like very communicative as well. Like any other professional setting, as long as you really communicate with them, they've shown nothing more than the willingness and the desire to really help you with whatever you're going through.
Beautiful. And I'm glad to hear that that was your experience. I will say at the graduate level, it's very rare that you hear that feedback, right? You know, it's like, oh, you are a working professional, business professional, you know, the expectation is you should be able to figure it out, right? But still remembering the human component that, you know, we're all still human, we all still have lives and things, right? So that empathy component, right? That's still very present even at the professor student level. So that's awesome, Jonathan. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else care to share?
Yeah, I can chime in. I can say that definitely the sort of accessibility to your professors really changes from course to course. There are some professors that will literally respond to email within 20 minutes on a Sunday, and some that take more like 24 hours. So I think first is like understanding kind of their bandwidth for the communication part. And that usually takes like a couple weeks to sort of like understand how their communication and response style is. But what I can say across the board is that they're all very passionate about their subject material. And that is a huge plus. I mean, asking for help or trying to get sort of feedback from somebody who's excited about what they're teaching just makes everything so much easier. And I think it's across the board, like I haven't come across a single professor that isn't just like so passionate to be sort of teaching you what they know already. And that has really helped in just making like great connections with your professors, even though you may never have an in-person interaction with them, or even sometimes you never even have online interactions. Your interactions are just purely through maybe email. But because they are so passionate, they are there, they're willing to help you, they're willing to work with you, they're willing to give you extra assistance if it's maybe a subject matter that perhaps you know a little bit less about because of your background. I'm going to use myself as an example. I had absolutely zero coding experience when I came into the program. And that's not, some of my peers have had coding experience. They've have, positions already as data scientists or whatever. And I was coming in as a scientist with no coding. So I was coming in very naive. And I think I just kind of communicated that to my professors, and they were more than willing to sort of like give me the extra help or point me into online resources that might kind of catch me up to speed in that area. So it's been fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. It's wonderful to hear. And I love how you describe their excitement essentially radiating through the email, right? To where you felt comfortable and still felt supported, even though it wasn't a face-to-face interaction. So that's huge. That's huge. So we'll go on to the next question. So what is your favorite class and why? We can do maybe a compilation of sorts of these questions. Are there group projects involved? So what's been your favorite class? Have there been any group project experiences that you've had that stand out? Anyone care to share?
I would say personally, the supply chain course was really one of the most exciting for me, personally, because one of the assignments that you do in there is actually an informational interview with a supply chain professional. And for an online course, there's so many people that you get to meet throughout this program, but we actually got to meet even more supply chain professionals because each student actually records a presentation about their meeting with this professional. So we got to see this across different industries. So personally, it was really exciting to get to like see real world examples, be actually able to step aside from the computer, have these in-person conversations that really take you outside your comfort level. And also being able to see different industries as someone who comes from a nonprofit background and also small business background, being able to see what tech looks like or other industries that I haven't stepped foot in yet was really great. Just that variety of lenses.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Taylor. Jessica, did you want to add as well?
Oh yeah. So one of my favorite classes has been law and business. I have zero experience or knowledge in law, and that class really challenged me in a very fun way where I got to learn about law and business and learn about how business is managed across the US as well as internationally. We had I can't remember how many group projects. It wasn't a lot, but basically we just worked through slides and then we recorded our presentation, and then I can't remember the day, but let's say it was due on Tuesday and then we had until Thursday to reply or something like that, but it was spaced out throughout the week. And yeah, I really enjoyed that class. It taught me a lot. And it was really fun working with my classmates.
Awesome. Awesome. So it sounds like you got a chance to collaborate. Taylor, it sounds like you had an opportunity to kind of step outside of your comfort zone, still have some in-person conversations, even though you were in the virtual space in terms of the program. So wonderful. So wonderful. So some hands-on things, it sounds like too. That's awesome. All right, so what do assignments typically look like? So I know, Jessica, you talked a little bit about, and also Taylor, I think you mentioned this as well, recording your presentation, having the chance to have a conversation with an actual person that works in supply chain. You talked a little bit, Taylor, about the lead components that are in every class and the empathetic approach. Do you all care to share a little bit more about, Melinda, I'd actually like to hear from you a little bit in terms of what do your assignments look like? Are there case studies in the MSBA program?
I mean, yeah, we work with like a lot of real data sets all the time. I mean, so that is kind of like a real world, example. I think a lot of times we start off with data sets that are a little bit more curated for a classroom setting, which means they're very clean and like easy to sort of navigate. But then we're doing a big project, a group project right now that is basically you go find the data set in the real world and then work it and then make something of it. So it's basically like what it would be, I guess, in any sort of real job. But yeah, so a lot of the assignments, I mean, there's a lot of different assignments. There's coding assignments, there's presentations that we give, there's papers that we have to write. Each quarter we have a data translation project where this is sort of most like the real world project that you might have to do, and it usually takes several weeks. And there's usually a fairly large coding element to it. There's a fairly large, paper that you write, a presentation. A lot of times this is a group project, so you're, working with other people on it. And sprinkled throughout all of this, there's a lot of like little tiny assignments. Sometimes they're group projects, sometimes they're individual, sometimes they're discussion boards. So it's a really like wide variety of types of assignments. And types, I think to accommodate everybody's learning style, because everybody kind of learns in slightly different ways. And as far as if I'm able to apply what I learn in class to your work, interestingly, I am, even though I'm a scientist in biotech and pharma, which doesn't feel like the same at all. But there is a lot of overlap just in the way that like I look at data from a business perspective to a scientific perspective. And I think there, especially in the pharma and biotech world, there's lots of discussions about AI and machine learning. And I think that just having sort of like a fundamental understanding of it has been really great to sort of discuss with my colleagues who maybe have a little bit more of a naive understanding of it, just like basically getting really into it and actually writing, machine learning programs and that sort of nature. It's been really useful to come back and sort of say, like, this is how this can be useful here today, right now. And that has been really fantastic. So it's been kind of like a cool sort of intersection of kind of tech and biotech, and yeah.
Awesome. I love it. That's awesome. Jessica, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. So my assignment, so I actually started part-time and then I went full-time and then part-time again. Because at first, I have a background in sociology and social work, so learning business was completely new to me. And in order for me to have a work-life balance, I had to go part-time. And so when I was full-time, we had like, she was saying, had papers due, a lot of readings, a lot of sometimes video recordings, which could be a little intimidating, but you get used to it. And everybody's doing it. And yeah, I mean, it's all what you apply, and it's all up to you kind of how much time you can spend on your homework. Um, there are different levels of, what you want to read. The professors will kind of guide you, focus on this section, but you're free to read the whole chapter if you want. So it's just kind of like what you want, but it is pretty manageable depending on your time.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear. It's great to hear, from Melinda's standpoint of how, you're able to still utilize the information and the things that you're gaining from class in real time, right? Especially because, as Melinda was mentioning, AI and machine learning are essentially at the forefront of business in today's world, right? It's like either you adapt or you fall behind, right? And then to Jessica's point, right, being able to, kind of step outside of your comfort zone, right? So as you transition into business or whatever position that you're in, they're going to be ample opportunities where you'll have to be speaking in front of other people, right? Or where you have to pull from a knowledge base and be able to articulate and kind of share and speak to things, having that educative backing or having, again, that insight on how to drive business forward, right? So all of these tidbits and tools and tips that you're getting to help you, again, in real time in your real positions. So it's awesome. Jonathan, I'd love to hear from you with the education that you have received so far and, again, having the consulting business and doing the amazing things that you're doing in your full-time work, in your day job, day position. With the education you've received so far, do you feel like completing this program will put you in a more competitive position?
Most definitely. I think one of the things that like starting off was a few of the classes that I really think really resonated with me were like our leadership courses that you have to take starting off. So coming in, I was a senior program manager leading a team of program managers, and I think one of the things that I was lacking in terms of being a leader was like empathy or like little key things that I feel like this course has really taught me how to really adapt and become a better leader. So I think that's definitely some of the key things that I've taken from my time here at CLU that really resonate with me, and I'm able to then move forward and kind of take that into different doors of my career. And now doing something completely different in terms of consulting is like having that experience and being able to kind of speak and build on that has really resonated well.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thanks again so much for sharing. So yeah, we'll keep trucking along. And I think a few of you have actually shared this with me about your cohort. So I'm curious to know, do you all talk or interact with your classmates? What has your team building or bonding experience been like with your peers? Yeah, I think Taylor, you actually shared a little bit with me. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, our cohort is very close. I was actually amazed at how close we became after day one. When classes started, the professors are like, we've heard from previous students, either a group chat via text, Microsoft Teams chat. We created a chat group, and I mean, graduation was in June, and we're still pretty much talking every day as a full group, which is, I think, pretty incredible. And even at graduation, it was amazing to see these people that you've talked and interacted with online, a couple of times in person with some folks. But we all stood in a giant circle, and we even had the cohort that was like a little bit kind of in proximity to our courses too. We stood in one big and we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing to just get to see everyone in person. And as we've kind of entered into this post-grad time in our lives, I think for a lot of folks, it's been awesome to be able to network with one another, lean on each other as we say like, hey, how are you applying your degree in your work right now? Or what opportunities are coming up kind of in your sector? And folks have been leaning on each other just right and left. And even more so, I think it's pretty amazing that like even the professors are still really close with the cohorts too, that like we'll reach out as a group and say, hey, can you provide us with advice on X, Y, and Z? And they are there at the drop of a hat.
Oh, awesome. That's incredible. That's incredible. I will say I've heard a lot of stories too about the closeness and the bonds that you all build, which I think is incredible. Some tear jerkers I've heard. I will say that that's been such a beautiful experience. I think the other webinar that we had, one of this panelists shared that she wouldn't have made it through her program had it not been for her cohort. So I mean, if that just goes to again to what Taylor said, speak to the bond and the intentionality of how Seattle works to create that sense of community to build those bonds and forge those connections. So that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. I love that. So what is the most challenging part of the program, right? Because we know this is a graduate program, you're getting your master's degree, right? The goal of it is to challenge you. What has been maybe the most challenging part about the program, and maybe what are some things that surprised you about maybe some things that you've overcome that you didn't think it was going to go well, right?
I can maybe sort of jump in about the
Okay.
challenging part.
Mhm.
I mean, I definitely expected this coming in because I knew it was sort of like a work at your own pace, but we would also have assignments. But I do still to this day, the most challenging part is to, make sure and pace out your work properly. I mean, it is very easy to just say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. And then the next thing you know, it's Saturday and everything's due on Sunday. So I know every week I have to kind of like resist the temptation to, like, I don't know, sit down on a Tuesday night and watch Game of Thrones and say, no, I should really watch some lectures tonight instead, and do those kind of things. And I will say that's the most challenging, and I knew it was going to be the most challenging. I knew that that's how the program would be. So that's like sort of the one thing to sort of be aware is that there is because it's an online program, it's you really have to like sort of dig within deep to sort of pace out your work, and not really kind of put yourself in a bind on a weekly basis. I think what surprised me about the program actually is sort of flips back to the last slide is how sort of close I've gotten with the people in my class. And I know in the MSBA program, the first couple of classes, I mean, we have weekly group assignments. And so it really sort of like forces you to work with literally everybody in the class multiple times. And this is, a fantastic way to get to know people, and suddenly, you know what's going on in their lives, and you know what their jobs are all about. And, I was just meeting with somebody in a group assignment last night, and I was asking him, oh, how's your new job going? And like, he was telling me all about it. So you do become more like friends as well as, colleagues, if you will. And I think that I was a little bit skeptical going in about that sort of element. I thought, well, I might have to really try hard to like meet these people. And really, you don't have to try hard. Like the program will put you in the position to meet them and sort of build these relationships. And, they do really sort of turn into, quite close connections, as Taylor was talking about. I mean, even I think it was last semester, the company I currently work for, we had, I don't want to get too much into it, but we had a clinical trial failure. And I think everybody was a little bit concerned that there might be mass layoffs. And I was telling people that were in my cohort about it. And somebody jumped in and said, hey, we got some jobs at Packard. Let me start sending you things that I think you would be good for. I mean, he was right away, like helping me assist with even potential job search. And,
Wow.
I think I kind of was surprised to even realize like, oh, this is sort of where these relationships are. Like they are, sort of like close link, LinkedIn friends, but like the good ones that you like hit up every once in a while to meet for coffee and catch up with. So anyways, I think that kind of has both, it's been a pleasant surprise really, and really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. And then it's great too, because you've worked with these individuals on projects so they can speak to your work ethic and they can speak to your ability to successfully, get objectives done and deadlines met, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, so that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. We'll keep trucking along in the interest of time. So I think you all have talked a little bit about something relative to this throughout the presentation already about the flexibility and how you, can have a newborn and watch lectures and how you can manage everything, while working full time. Now on average, about how many hours per week would you say you spend on courses and classwork? I guess I'll start with you, Jessica, because I know you mentioned that you don't necessarily have, a direct business background, right? And a lot of sometimes Seattle business candidates may not necessarily directly come from a business background. So on average, I know you mentioned doing part-time, full-time. About how many hours would you say you spend on classes and coursework?
When I was full-time, I was probably spending a good 10 to 15 hours. And right now it's part-time. I do maybe like 5. But I had to get really creative and find ways of how I can learn everything and apply it, because that's what I love about this master's program is what you're learning, your homework is applying it. So you don't, well, at least so far, I haven't had any classes where they quiz you on what you have memorized. It's more of like, how are you applying it? How are you understanding? Which is amazing. So I did that, like I had to download Speechly or Voicely. I don't know what it's called, but basically you convert it if it's not already on a PDF, and then it'll read it to you. And this was a game changer for me because I was able to, apply my audio, my visual, and, if I had to type something, or if I'm driving, I'm listening to my readings or watching a lecture. But again, this is all because I want to get the full round of what I'm learning. This is an investment. And so I do take it very serious. And I feel like I kind of have to, because I don't have that business background. And, I just want to be able to apply it as much as I can. Yeah, so that's kind of like what it is for me.
I would say if you like the term, if with there's a will, there's a way, you're that personified. So I love to hear that. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah, and so incredible. Thanks for sharing that as well. Now, I know, Jonathan, you mentioned a little bit about kind of this helping facilitate the leadership opportunities for you. You're doing your consulting, but what do you see yourself doing maybe long term after graduation?
Oh, after graduation, well, I definitely see myself returning back into academia. I'm not sure in exactly what space or what capacity, but I do. Um, I did find like this new love of being in this atmosphere. I think my undergraduate years were they were good, but I don't think I was as locked in as I am now, being a business professional. So I think really taking the time. I'm really happy I didn't jump into this MBA after my undergrad, and I kind of took the time to work in it and build those experiences before coming back. So I think now being in academia at this part of my life is definitely turned around for the better. So I really want to just build on that and probably possibly look into a PhD program.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. Love it. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Taylor, I guess we'll also ask this question to you since you have graduated. What are some things or if anything, or some changes that you feel you've got from the program or that you've been able to utilize to help leverage your skill set after graduation?
So since the start of my program, I've worked 7 days a week. It is totally manageable if you have 2 jobs. Definitely, of course, focus on self-care during this program. But my other job is supporting our family's small business. So we own a Chevron gas station up in the north end of Seattle, and it's been amazing to just bring the skill sets and the knowledge back to my family, being able to apply it in just direct relationships with our suppliers, being able to understand areas of the business that I didn't yet know. So for me, in undergrad, accounting and finance was always my weak spot. I would just be so fearful of when those would come around in the schedule. But being able to just work with professors in the master's program and say, here's where I'm not feeling the strongest, and them to just be able to work with me and say, okay, here's your real world example of a family business. Here's how you're going to apply it. Here's where we can really strengthen your skill set, and then be able to bring it back immediately in kind of a small area has been really amazing, where it's just being able to put one foot in front of the other and get to see it live in action. And then also in my other job, working in a nonprofit, you are working with a lot of different stakeholders where you are using the lead model that we use in these courses. You're listening to patients, you're listening to families, and you're empathizing with their needs and the services you provide, while also balancing business strategy and thinking about how is your nonprofit going to exist in the next 10 years and how can we make it even stronger than it is now. So really being able to put those into action straight from graduation, straight from every class that you're learning.
Excellent, excellent. And I would say that a big part of that too is you're able to reference a lot of this knowledge from individuals who have built businesses, right? Who have the professors who have functioned in senior executive roles and functioned in these high level positions who can give you feedback on the business needs for your companies, right? Or even the business needs of the companies that you're in currently, right? So a huge element, right? But I think sometimes as you think of professor, you think, oh, they're just going to teach. Like, no, they have actually done the work also, right? So that's incredible. So yeah, so I think there's maybe one more slide with questions, but I'm curious to know what advice that you guys have dropped some major gems and tidbits and tips today. But what advice or tips for success would you give some of the new students who are, who are on this webinar today, who are entering the program?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. Though it's an online program, there are opportunities for you guys to coexist and mingle, whether it's virtually or in person. Really, like I would say, utilize those moments. Like I got to meet Jessica for the first time a few months ago at one of these events, and we started at the same time back last fall. So it's really just about it's you can easily find yourself like isolating yourself in this program, being that you're online. But if you do take the time to get to know your cohort, I think like Taylor had said, or what's it, Melinda? Sorry, I don't know which one. But you guys use your cohort to really build those connections to where if you find yourself in a position of where you one day might need one of these guys, guys or gals for whatever, they'll be able to kind of attest to your character and to also to your work ethic. So really, just don't isolate yourself. Put yourself out there. Take the time to actually, go to campus. Join something and be a part. Outside of the online atmosphere.
Beautiful. Anyone else?
I have sort of one piece of advice, but also something that wasn't previously mentioned is the mentor program. I have found to be just like this fantastic hidden gem of this program. I didn't know about it before I joined. And essentially what it is the School of Business basically will pair alumni who have graduated from either the MBA or the MSBA program with, current MSBA or MBA people. And you essentially, there's like a night where we go and you meet all of the potential mentors, and then you rank them, and then you give it back. And then they essentially match based on like sort of interests. And I think maybe mentee kind of like where the mentees are, if they're graduate students versus undergrads, things like that. And I've done it 2 years in a row, and it has been so amazing. I mean, I'm literally the mentor from the first year. I'm planning on messaging him on LinkedIn in probably a couple days here to start talking about my capstone project, because I have some ideas rolling around my head about what to do, and he has experience in that area, and I kind of need some advice about how to pitch it to my company to get their buy-in to do it at where I work currently. And so this is like a really, I mean, we've talked a lot about the peer sort of connection, but like being able to sort of interact with alumni like this is really fantastic. It's a year-long commitment, so it's not just like a night. You end up interacting or meeting with somebody, regularly for an entire year, which really just like creates a bond between you and somebody. They get to really know what you're doing and what your interests are and what your struggles are and all that kind of stuff. And so by the end of that year, you really have like a very strong mentor, not just somebody maybe you met for a night. And then even beyond that, there are so many different like mixers and mingles on campus. So if you're, a local Seattle person or even greater Seattle person, but interested in doing the online, I should mention the mentor program, you can do it even if you're not in Seattle. So they have like, options to do like Zoom mentorship. So everybody can take advantage. But anyways, if you are in Seattle, they have lots of mixers and mingles, and those have been really great to just meet people either in the MBA program or the in-person MBA or the in-person MSBA program. And then also like other alumni that just happen to be around for the night. So all of those sort of like little nuggets have been really fantastic. And, I would think strongly about, taking advantage as many of those as possible, because those are as valuable as like the coursework.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's kind of one of those things where you really get out what you put in, right? And what you invest and where you're vested. So that's awesome to hear. As well. Great advice. Great advice. Anyone else? Jessica,
Yeah, I can
by all
go.
means.
My advice or tips would be to just get out there. I know easier said than done. I was definitely intimidated by the whole process. I was very scared. But I decided to really commit, and the professors have been amazing. I have, told them if there's ever a time that I don't understand an assignment, or if I submitted an assignment and I completely misunderstood what I was supposed to do. And they have all been really amazing. So I would say, really explore those communication skills, because they're really going to get you somewhere. And I was also going to piggyback off of what Jonathan was saying. They have these really cool mixers what is it called? Mixer, right? That you can attend, and it's really cool because you get to see your classmates and you're like, hey, I recognize your face, and then it's just really cool. Yeah, and I just want to say, if any of you are still questioning it or having doubts, continue to explore attending things like these, and just really write out what is holding you back and just explore a little bit more. But it took me I think 7 years to come back to do my master's. So I knew I was ready. It was scary, but I knew I was ready, and I just hope that you have that feeling as well.
Awesome. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you, Jessica. I can definitely tell from our initial conversations, I've seen exponential growth and just from when we first started working together. So, so excited for you. Awesome. Anyone else, any final tips or thoughts or anything? Awesome. So just so everyone knows, this webinar is being recorded. So if you joined late, I just saw a question come through. If you joined late, I will send out the replay. So some of the questions that you have may have already been answered. So I'll send the replay out for those who missed maybe the beginning parts of it. So not to worry, not a problem whatsoever. But I know that the group that we have here today has been phenomenal in sharing just some incredible information about support, about flexibility of the program, about applying, about the hands-on learning experiences that they've had so far, and just an array of, again, ample of opportunities to really help advance this goal or aspiration that you have for yourself, or that you may have for yourself. In addition to some of the things that they've spoken over, some things that they've touched on this evening, Seattle University does offer, again, a comprehensive suite of support where they are committed to helping to facilitate this experience with and for you, dedicated academic advisors, which would in most cases be your success coordinator, who you are paired with from the time that you start all the way through to graduation. There is 24/7 access to tech support. So if you're having technology issues, if you're having issues with your laptop, what have you, with programs, platforms, there is always someone available to help and assist you. So again, your success coordinator, Jack, who is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because I work with him. He is actually a phenomenal human. He is dedicated, to your success and to your advancement. He is someone who, again, will be with you from the time that you start all the way up and through to graduation. Some of you may actually get to meet him at graduation. Taylor, I'm not sure if you got a chance to meet him. I think he was at the most recent graduation. But he does kind of help with tips on managing work-life balance, helping helping you to navigate the learning management system, class registration, getting you prepared for graduation, career assistance, you name it, right? So this is another resource that you have at your disposal to really kind of help facilitate this experience for you as well. Now, for the online MBA program for the fall term, applications are still open. The final application deadline is September 9th. So there is still time for you to get your applications in. Some general admissions eligibility criteria essentially stipulates that you just must have a bachelor's degree with at least a 3.0 or higher, a resume demonstrating about 2 years of professional work experience. Unofficial transcripts are feasible if you are interested in submitting your application, and the application fee is actually being waived. It was waived in the summer term, and it's also being waived for this upcoming fall. Personal statement would also be optional for you. Now, if you don't have a 3.0 GPA, there are some contingencies to where you may receive a probationary admission. And for the question that I just received about the application for spring 2025, those applications are also open now as well. If you do have questions about that, I'll include my contact details at the end of the presentation again, and we can arrange a time to talk a little bit about the term that works best for you. For the online MSBA, the eligibility criteria is similar, aside from the fact there being no professional work experience required, but again, a bachelor's of a 3.0. The application fee is also waived for this program, and the personal statements are optional. Probationary admission is available if you do not meet the 3.0 requirements. But again, feel free to reach out to myself if you have more questions about that. These are just some general financial aid options if you are interested in funding opportunities. Usually I don't talk about finance at the admissions level, but there is the support to help you find a plan that you feel comfortable and confident with. Currently, the online MBA and online MSBA programs tuition costs are estimated at $1,011 for the online MBA at 54 credits, 19 courses, and online MSBA for 15 courses, 48 credit hours. But again, if you have more questions specifically about the program, about program details, about tuition costs, and even just about if either of these programs are right for you, again, keep in mind the final application deadline is September 6th. I'm sorry, I misquoted the September. I said September 9th. It's September 6th. The priority application deadline is August 9th, and classes start September 23rd for the fall. In the interest of time, if you do have questions, please forward them to me. If you have questions specifically for our guest, you can also forward those to me, and I would get those over to them to ensure that you get those questions answered. I want to make sure I'm considerate of everyone's time this evening. Tonight has been such a fantastic webinar. I'm so grateful again to have had the opportunity to be a part of this experience with each and every one of you, and to see you all growing and blossoming is such an incredible moment. So again, much appreciated to you all joining us this evening. Again, feel free to reach out to myself if you have questions. This is recorded, so I will be sending out the replays. And again, to each and every one of our guests, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
No, probably.